Hi, namaste, and welcome back. I'm Sushmita, and today I'm going to take you on a tour to teach you how you can focus more deeply and think more clearly through an exploration of the subject of focus. I think that being able to invest this limited attention in today's world, when we live in environments that are quite often distracting, doing lots of brain heavy work, could potentially be an essential skill that can be like a superpower. When I started to view just being able to focus as the most important ingredient, not just being more productive, but generally more happy, I started to invest more time into investigating the source of where this attentional muscle comes from. Now, I slowly learned strategies that I could use to hyperfocus using Chris Bailey's book called Hyperfocus. And besides some of the fascinating things that I learned about focus, I thought to bridge the gap between just being able to do it on a mental level to being able to connect that to the yoga practice and offer real tools to make them super practical in life. Are you ready? Let's dive right in. Watching a talk on focus is great, and if you're trying to focus on a talk on focus, that's pretty meta, good for you, but still, it's rather useless unless you can actually act upon it. What matters most is to be able to bridge these insights that are just intellectual and actually apply those principles to the mat in your daily life, and of course, explore ways to manage your attention better. These ideas have already changed one life, mine, and I know that they can do the same for you too. So, when it comes to investing your attention deliberately and intelligently, the first question to ask yourself is, how am I currently investing my attention? And your attention needs to be invested extremely intelligently and deliberately, because it needs this kind of intelligent management, just like you would invest money in the stock market. And the author of this book, Chris Bailey, he says, given that we have limited resources, attention or money, how do we then deploy these resources to get the best return? Now, this should get you thinking really, how am I currently spending my attention, whether it's on Instagram or YouTube, or maybe you haven't given it much thought so far, and a lot of us haven't, that's okay. But just know that going forward, paying attention to your attention is important. Paying attention to your attention could mean the difference between just sitting and not doing anything and actually getting things done and feeling really rejuvenated at the end of the day with just the work you're doing. Because this isn't just about productivity either. It's about how our attention truly shapes our lives. You know, he says within the book, he says, whether at home or at work, the quality of our attention determines the quality of our work and our life. So at work, the more attention you give to what's right in front of you, the more productive you become. The more attention you devote to what's right in front of you, the more meaningful your life will, of course, become. Now, that's what attention is really about. It's about, one, he says, the quality of work that we do. It's not about the quantity, but the quality, and the quality of the relationships that we have at home. Now, where does this come from? It comes from the state of our mental well-being, and we can do this by controlling our energy levels. Now, in most cases, we must care about our attention because it, of course, directly affects our productivity. But over time, after reading a lot of self-help books, I've come to realize that we live in such a hustle culture that keeps saying, go, 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 do more, just get more stuff done, and quite un-yogic, let's just say, because it feels cold and corporate and overly focused on just efficiency. I prefer a different and fairly friendly approach to the definition of productivity. I think it just means accomplishing what we intend to do. So some days being productive means writing an entire essay or doing a presentation to your work team. On other days, if your goal is literally just to relax and do absolutely nothing, then being busy on that particular day doesn't necessarily make you productive, right? We live in a world of busy people, just busy people being busy, who love being busy. And it doesn't matter how busy we are if that busyness doesn't lead us to accomplish anything of importance. And as Chris Bailey defines it, productivity is not at all about cramming more into our days, but it's more about doing the right thing in each and every moment. This, guys, is productivity redefined. It's simply accomplishing what we intend to do. Now, this has two key implications. One is that we must first intend to do something in the first place, meaning that we don't just approach things extremely haphazardly, but we have an order, we have an intention behind this. Instead, we have to focus on what is the clearly defined goal or the clearly defined path to achieving that goal. Now, secondly, it's that what we do should actually be in congruence with what we say we're going to do. And let me go into this for a second because this is extremely important to understand. When you say you're going to do something, you're creating like a mini contract with yourself. So are you the type of person that doesn't live up to those contracts? Then, well, good luck accomplishing anything at all. Conversely, are you the type of person that makes really like sweeping statements or like goals for yourself that seem impossibly high, or they're just so easy that you don't feel challenged enough? Then it's going to be hard for you to trust and reinforce those contracts, those mini contracts with yourself. But keep in mind that the key here is that it's not about being busy. Productivity just means accomplishing what we intend to do. It's not about cramming more into the days, it's not about doing a lot more, but it's about doing the right thing in each moment. And doing the right thing relates to our intention inside each moment. And this is where journaling is an extremely important tool for you to get into and to do it with a meditative state of mind. So, just for today, what do you intend to bring forth today? And let's just pick one thing in each and every area of our life, whether that's health or wealth or love or happiness, just one single thing that you intend to bring forth in this day with hyperfocus. Yes? Awesome. So moving on, we're going to talk about hyperfocus and its connection with the Ashtanga's Drishti. Now, when you hyperfocus on just a singular task, just one thing that you're focused on, you expand that task or that project till it fills up your entire attentional space, until it completely takes up your entire attentional space. And this applies, of course, to your yoga practice as well. And that's why it's so crucial to practice the drishtis within your yoga practice. Drishtis are gazing points that allow you to manage your attention both deliberately as well as purposefully. Now, in Ashtanga, there are 9 possible drishtis. The first one is the Urdhva drishti or the upward drishti. The second is the Bhrumadhya drishti, the third eye. The Nasagra drishti, the nose. The Parshva drishti, the side. The Nabhi chakra drishti, the navel. The Hastagra drishti, the hands. The Angushta drishti, the thumb. And the Padogra drishti or the feet. Now, each pose is assigned one of these specific focal attention points. You can see how the drishtis work by simply observing how they help to turn the attention inwards. And you can do this by deliberately placing your attention on the object or the body part in this case, and by eliminating all the other distractions that will inevitably arise whenever you practice, going back to focusing on that one single point. Now, this process is many things. First of all, it's deliberate. Second, it leads us to become energized by the hyper focus that we gain from the practice. Just think about it. Think about the last time you found yourself doing a task and you found yourself in this state of hyper focus. Allowing just that one task or that one project to consume your full attentional space means that this state doesn't make you feel stressed or doesn't make you feel overwhelmed. In fact, your attentional space fills up so evenly that it feels like flow. Since this state of hyperfocus is much more than just being productive, you can truly focus and slow down and accomplish an incredible amount of things in just a short period of time. Because the most important aspect of this state of hyperfocus is that only one productive or meaningful task consumes your entire attentional space. And this is simply non-negotiable. Here's why. Whether it's tasks or commitments or your yoga practice, everything can benefit from every little bit of extra attention. And we all know that we've tried multitasking and doing different things, but when we focus and reduce the task list to try and just do one singular thing, then we feel much more productive. Really, just for a second, think back to the last time you had a super productive day. And recall this with your new productivity definition. Spend some time just really reflecting on this and taking time to go back to that day and think about what were you doing and what went right, and just analyze that day. Chris in the book says that you were probably focusing on just one singular thing. Maybe it was out of necessity because you had a deadline or something, but this task or this project truly filled your attentional space completely and wholly, and it felt really good. Now, science suggests that when we try and implement this into real, practical, everyday life, our attention passes through 4 states as we begin to focus. Now, of course, the first state is when we're focused and we're productive because we've just started the task. We feel like, okay, I can do this, and you feel that first 10 minutes or so when you feel truly focused, and you're like, okay, this feels like fun. And then, assuming that we don't get distracted or don't get interrupted, then our minds begin to wander. They begin to wander to everything. We start to daydream about what we're meant to do or other things on the to-do list and what's for food, for dinner, all these different things that come up. Now, that's the second phase, when our attention and our minds begin to simply wander. Now, the third is we make a note of this mind wandering tendency, and then we can take a while, especially if we don't frequently check the consuming of our attentional space. What begins to consume our attentional space doesn't directly come up in our minds. Like, we can't really truly understand it immediately because we're so used to consuming things, and that the things that we consume eventually consume our attentional space. And on average, we only notice apparently only 5 times in a whole hour that our attention or our mind has wandered. This is people who haven't really experienced meditative practices and who don't have like true training in pranayama and so on. And so today I challenge you to try and reduce the time between which your mind goes away from the task of hyperfocus, whether that's just listening to this talk or whatever it be, but to come back to the point of action. And fourth, the last one, is when we shift our focus back to that original point of the original object that we gave it to attend to. Now, because the focus has 4 stages, this is the framework within which we will also see how you can get out of being mind wandering and distracted and begin hyper focusing. The first is to choose a productive or meaningful object of attention. In the yoga practice, this can be the breath, this can be a drishti, this can be like micro adjustments within the posture. Or if you're doing some task in daily life, this can be just a meaningful task that you've been wanting to accomplish to be the object of attention. Number 2 is to eliminate as many external as well as internal distractions as you can. External distractions can include things like turning your phone off, and internal distractions can mean things like just your wandering thoughts. Yeah? Now, the third is to simply focus on that chosen object of attention over and over again. Step 4 will be to continually draw your focus back to that one object of attention. Now, doesn't this sound a bit like meditation? It's because it's exactly like meditation. The only thing or the only point of contention I have is that sometimes when we're taught about meditation, we don't really understand that meditation is the ultimate goal of yoga. We need to do a lot of yamas and niyamas and pranayama and asana, and I know these words are in Sanskrit and you may not understand them, but a lot of preparatory stages before we can get to the stage of being able to sit like a rock for 15 to 20 minutes or an hour or 4 days to attain that state of true meditation, when we can keep pulling back our attention to that point of focus. Now, for the rest of us that are still just beginning and are still in this stage of discovering how our attention operates, it's to choose a point of focus, whether that's drishti or an inward focus, whether that be just the hridaya grantha, which is the center of the chest, the heart region, to focus all your attentional strands and create this kind of capsule with your attentional space. Now then, when you're in this space, the challenge is for you to really allow that task to fill up your entire attentional space and just do that one thing, that one task, that one asana, until you can meditate on every single muscle, or you can see all the nuances of the task and why has not been working for you so far. After you do this a couple of times and you have almost a ritual, I want you to really think today, how can I implement this about my own attentional space, and have a checklist. What are you doing that can get you into a state of hyperfocus? When you make your own checklist of the rituals or the things that work specifically for you, for me, I find that reading to some medium beats per minute music helps me really focus. So I do that. And so for you, you have to create your own rituals that work for you. But the framework remains the same. First, how will you choose what you put your attention to? What's your filter through which you put all your tasks through and say, this is the thing I've chosen to focus on? Quite often this can be actually trickier than it actually sounds, because it's hard to know exactly what to do and to dedicate all your attention to just one thing rather than the 10 things that you could be doing at any given time. That's hard, but once you do it, it begins to become much easier to focus. Now, second is, what tools will you use to block out all your common distractions? So perhaps this means like journaling about your common distractions, and then maybe setting a time limit on your phone to say, okay, Instagram, I'm going to check it only for 30 minutes a day. Maybe that means you put your laptop away and you use a pen and paper to write. So whatever that means. And third, how long will you work for? Make sure that it's easy to track. For me, I like to use the Pomodoros. So if there's a 25-minute Pomodoro and it's ticking, I can actually hear the ticking. So it's like, okay, I need to get to work until just this 25 minutes is done. So I have a end in mind and it's easy for me to focus. And the last step is, what will you do to help draw back your attention to the task at hand? Inevitably, when it's going to wander, regardless of what you do, the mind is made in such a way that it's meant to wander. And for me, that is learning to meditate. Because hyper focus, just like meditation, involves continually returning to that object of focus, and usually sometimes it's just the breath. As you notice your breath, you notice your mind that has wandered from it, and when you come back to the breath, you start to become more mindful. And each time you begin to return to your breath, you then understand the details of your breath, you understand texture of your breath, you understand how it feels within the nostrils, the touch of the breath within the nostrils, and then you begin to heighten your executive functioning. And this is how you can control your attention. So I think ultimately for all of us today, the key is to be able to focus, and not just focus in a way that's haphazard, that's like focusing on multiple different things, but to pierce through the distractions and train our mind to hyperfocus. I hope this talk was useful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Namaste and have a great day.